Good morning, church. If you are visiting here this morning, we are in the middle or coming towards the end of a Daniel class series. And you will need the notes today. So we type these up and send them out. So if you're here for the first time, wave your hands all about and say to the guy next to you, please email them to you. Because this is a passage in the Bible dealing with prophecies. So there's a lot more in there. So like I said, if you're here and nudge the people if you don't recognize them and send it along. It's great to see Miles here with Pete and Paulina, which is great. And please pray for Pete's job tomorrow as he starts. I'm sure he'll appreciate that. So we're going to get into Daniel chapter 8. So it's entitled, Daniel, a Man of Warning.
Come on.
So Daniel chapter 8 verse 1, it says, in the third year of King Belshazzar's reign, I, Daniel, had a vision after the one that already appeared to me. So the book of Daniel is not in chronological order. You have all the great events going on, and then you have all the prophecies stacked at the back. Very much like a movie, often it's not in chronological order. It's in order that makes sense to the person that's actually watching it. So basically, 2 years after the vision recorded in Daniel 7, Daniel had another vision. King Belshazzar began to rule about 553 BC. So this vision is about 551 BC. This is 12 years before the feast recorded in Daniel chapter 5. There are many similarities between the visions of Daniel 7 and Daniel 8, but the subject is quite different. In Daniel chapter 7, God provided much detail about the fourth beast, which is Rome. In the vision at hand, God will reveal, again in very, very vivid apocryphal language, the history of the Near East during the time of the second and third beast. That's Persia, Media, and Greece. And I know I was asked a couple of weeks ago, how do you know it's Persia, Media, and then Greece? Well, you'll see it actually uses it. So understand this. This is written a couple of hundred years before it happens. So that's literally like me saying, in 200 years' time, Vietnam will take over China. And then it happens. It's that specific, okay? So together these two visions describe the historical setting of the two greatest periods of persecution of the people of God that they'd ever had to endure. So basically, as you go through Daniel, you see the persecution of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. You see the persecutions of Daniel. You see personal persecutions. And then the latter book gets into the national persecutions. Okay? But we relate more to the personal persecutions, which is what we read out in the beginning of Daniel. But then he wants to encourage the nation as a whole. So in the vision at hand, we'll see So these two visions basically set up the persecution and understanding what's going to happen. But of course, unlike any other history books, Daniel's vision tell these events before they even happen. Now understand this when it comes to Christianity. There are no other religious books that have prophecies in them. They just don't exist. Okay, so why is that part of our life? Well, the only way that you can know the future is if you are God. Right? Yeah. So that's the whole point. You read the Bible and you go, well, this is from God because only God knows the future. Because he is outside time. So what are we meant to take away from that? Well, when we read ourselves in the Bible, you read it and you go, that's me. Not literally, it doesn't say James Quack in it, but it goes, you relate to a story, you go, let's see how the story ends. I'm going to choose the right path, not the wrong path. Okay, that's the whole purpose of reading the Bible. Then you have the persecutions. In Daniel chapter 7, God prepared the first, second, and third century disciples for the persecution they would receive under the Romans, which is why you can't understand Revelation until you understand Daniel. Hence why we're doing the book of Daniel before we go on to the book of Revelation. All right? God certainly had the Christians in mind when he was revealing Daniel. Why? Because the Bible, like us today, we read Daniel, we get encouragement. However, even more so, God had in mind preparing his nation, Israel, the Jews, for the persecutions they were to suffer under the Greek overlords of the 2nd century BC. So I know a lot of us maybe see a movie about, Alexander the Great and all the Greeks, and we go, they're really cool. They were our enemies. Okay, may change your view of Alexander the Great and his followers. Okay, they were the people that went after God's people. So Daniel chapters 8 and 10 through 12, one will find detailed future historical prophecies, both in the political background and the actual events and the anti-Jewish persecutions under the Seleucian Greeks. And I'm studying that at the moment because I always prepare my sermons 2 or 3 weeks in advance. And the specifics of it are unbelievable. So in this vision, Daniel is transported to Susa, okay, which is a capital. This is the capital of and the former capital of Elam. Cyrus, who's the leader of the Persian Medes, eventually makes this one of two capitals in his empire. So the fact that Daniel is being taken to that place, he's going, hey, this is a good clue that this is what we're talking about in the future. All right, this is the new capital. So I have 2 points. Point 1 is beautiful or rebellious. You know, would you be described as a beautiful Christian or a rebellious Christian? AJ's like, okay, some of us went like that in our hearts. No, okay. All right, so I put a little picture here, okay, because as we read it, and you've got a 2-horned ram, and some of you may not know what a ram is. It's like a sheep with big horns, okay? And then a horned goat, and then a goat with 4 horns and a small one coming out. All right, and then below it actually shows you about it being the Medo-Persian Empire, the Greek, and then the Greek Empire that it goes into the solutions. All right, so Daniel chapter 8, verse 2. In my vision I saw myself in the citadel of Susa in the province of Elam. In the vision I was beside the Ulal Canal. I looked up, and there before me was a ram with 2 horns, standing beside the canal, and the horns were long. One of the horns was longer than the other, but it grew up later. I watched the ram as it charged towards the west, the north, and the south. No animal could stand against it, and none could rescue from its power. It did as it pleased and became great. As I was thinking about this, suddenly a goat with a prominent horn between its eyes came from the west, across the whole earth without touching the ground. It came toward the 2-horned ram I had seen standing beside the canal and charged at it in a great rage. I saw it attack the ram furiously, striking the ram and shattering its 2 horns. The ram was powerless to stand against it. The goat knocked it to the ground and trampled on it, and none could rescue the ram from its power. The goat became very great, but at the height of its power, the large horn was broken off, and in its place 4 prominent horns grew up towards the 4 winds of the heaven. Out of one of them came another horn, which started small but grew in power to the south and to the east and towards the beautiful land. It grew until it reached the host of heavens, and it threw some of the starry host down on the earth and trampled on them. It set itself up to be the greatest as the commander of the army of the Lord. It took away the daily sacrifice from the Lord, and his sanctuary was thrown down. Because of rebellion, the Lord's people and the daily sacrifice were given over to it. It prospered in everything it did, and truth was thrown to the ground. Then I heard a holy one speaking, and another holy one said to him, how long will it take for this vision to be fulfilled? The vision concerning the daily sacrifice, the rebellion that causes desolation, the surrender of the sanctuary, and the trampling underfoot of the Lord's people. He said to me, it will take 2,300 evenings and mornings, then the sanctuary will be reconsecrated. So here Daniel sees this vision of a ram with 2 horns standing beside the canal. Thank you so much. Apocalyptic. Okay, there's my dyslexia coming out. Okay. Writing. Horns basically resemble 2 kings or national powers. The ram standing beside the canal creates the impression of an animal about to charge. This ram, of course, is the Persian Median Empire. We'll know that because it says it in the next passage. The Persian ram took the ram as their guardian. In other words, when the kings went into battle, they didn't wear a crown. They actually wore a diadem of a ram on their heads. So it was a national symbol. They charged across this canal from east to west, which is exactly where the Persian armies did. From their homelands in the mountainous area of basically, I think it's Kazakhstan, to the modern-day Medes of Persian under Cyrus, they charged west. And in just a few short years, they conquer almost the Near East. The next detail to provide to Daniel is one of the ram's horn will grow up later, but will become longer than the others. This refers to Persia, which basically came to power later than Media did, but which eventually became by far the dominant power in the dual empire. In other words, there was a big empire, but this was a small part of it. But Cyrus came from that small part, and he became the king and then overtook that. So you can get onto YouTube and watch all the videos on all that history. So Media is the large horn, while Persia is the horn which started smaller, but eventually outgrew its partner, the horn. Persia was basically relatively small and a weak province, and it grew under Cyrus the Great. Daniel gets a detail of full history right again. In other words, what you have to understand is this was being written to the Jews, and it was literally predicting the change in world powers. Now, if you actually research people like Cyrus the Great, he was somebody that was a very unlikely leader. His father had a vision about, his grandfather had a vision about his daughter, who was his mother, that he was going to do something really bad. So he told his main soldier to kill him. He didn't. He gave it to a farmer to kill him. He didn't kill him, and he grew up in obscurity. And only by chance was he found again. So there's so much when you get into the history. He's such an unlikely leader. It says, then the ram will charge to the west and north and to the south. And remember we had the vision before about the bear with the 3 ribs in its mouth? Well, these are the 3 ribs revealed in Daniel 7:5. They were Babylon, Lydia, and Egypt. These were the 3 great nations that were destroyed by the Persians to the Medes. In order, they were Babylon to the west of Persia, Lydia to the north, and Egypt to the south. So he's even giving the exact direction where this army is actually going. The 3 directions the ram charges in Daniel 8 are the 3 ribs in the bear 8 in Daniel 7. So understand this. This is an amazing, accurate prophecy. Last, the 2-horned ram that no one could stand against and none could rescue from its power. For 3 generations, this empire of the Persian Mede power was proved true. Eventually, though, the power of the Greek city-states proved to be too great for the Persians to completely break. And then this brings us into the second part of Daniel 8, which is the goat. So while taking the vivid vision and thinking about its meaning, suddenly it says a goat appeared with a prominent horn. Unlike the ram, which charged from the east, the goat goes from west, which is Alexander the Great. So it's actually telling you where these armies are actually coming from. Just a note, the beautiful land. What's it actually talking about when it talks about the beautiful land? Well, the beautiful land we will later learn about is actually Israel, okay? With its capital, Jerusalem, and the beautiful temple, which you enter through the beautiful gate. So in Acts 3, verse 1, it says, one day Peter and John were going up to the temple at the time of prayer. At 3 in the afternoon, now a man was lame from birth, was being carried to the temple gate called Beautiful, where he was put every day to beg from those going into the temple courts. So beauty in the Bible is a reference to spirituality. And that is what is most important to God. In other words, he looks at our beautiful hearts. So 1 Peter 3:3 says, your beauty should not come from an outward adornment, such as elaborate hairstyles, wearing gold, jewelry, or fine clothes, but rather it should be of your inner self, the unfading beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is great worth in God's sight. So God looks at things about, if you want to be beautiful, you've got to be spiritual. God gave Israel their land and prosperity to bring him glory. Instead, they used their blessings for themselves. They valued the gifts rather than the gift giver. They became entitled, ungrateful, selfish, the opposite of spirituality. I can't think of anything that's more unspiritual than being ungrateful. You know, which obviously spirituality has been grateful, selfless, serving, God-focused, knowing that you deserve nothing. It says here that the God's people were given over to great punishments in the form of persecutions because of rebellion. Let me ask you, do you have a rebellious heart? I think this world teaches you to be rebellious. Yep. Don't let anybody tell you what to do. You know, those people that understand what it means to obey stand in shock at rebellious people. It's amazing. Most Asian cultures, obedience is expected. It's like, your dad tells you to do it, you do it. Then you have certain nations that go, we are the greatest nation on the world. COVID hits, people go, I don't even believe COVID exists. I think it's a myth. We're going to anti-COVID parties. And they wonder why so many people die. And it makes a mockery. You know, when you are rebellious, you think this is pretty cool. But everybody around you go, you're just stupid. I remember when I was a young man and I had a mohawk and I walked down the street as a punk and I went, man, I am so cool. I am sure everybody around me didn't go, man, look at him. I really want to be like him. They went, maybe took a photo of me or two and gone, hey, do you see this idiot? Okay, but that's what it means like when you're actually rebellious. Are you resistant towards authority and leaders? That's just stupid. Can you imagine living in a world where there were no police? There's even movies on that. I know I never watched it, but there's some movie about for 24 hours, all the police go on holiday or something, and then everybody, I can't remember what it is, right? Some of you watched it, it's like, that's the most stupid thing in the world. You want, great, anybody can come in and rape my wife and kill my children. What are you, nuts? Well, you see, what we want to do is, we want to be rebellious in a society that believes in authority. You can't have both. Do you have that defensive heart? Don't tell me what to do. Do you pride yourself on being independent? Being independent is a satanic characteristic. Do you understand that? Like Satan said, I want to be independent from God. I want to do my own thing. Mm-hmm. And the world goes, unity is weak. If you just go along with the crowd, that's weak. Well, it's weak if it's not the right crowd, I'll give you that. But actually, being a Christian takes the most amount of courage in the entire world. Why? Because the world just goes, we don't want to be like you. How did you respond to that email yesterday about the free money we could potentially get? The government goes, hey, you could get more taxes. And I said, all as a church leader, all you can do is appeal to the good-heartedness of people. All right, so the government, with our taxes, may give us a little bit extra. We've got to try and raise special contributions and send out mission teams. I said, hey, any of you that could you do? Did you go, I ain't doing that? Who the heck does he think he is asking us to give that? It went on in some of our hearts, I know. But you go, oh, what a great idea. Fantastic. Wow, thank you, government. Free money. I didn't have it before I read the email. Don't really have it now. Let me just give it. See, God's still in charge of whether you get that or not. But how did your heart respond? A spiritual person is a disciple, is a learner, a student, someone easily moldable, easy to change, easily led, easy and eager to change. When you study the Bible with people, and you get to a point with some people where you want them to become a Christian more than they do. Does that make sense? So you're like, they don't really want to be a disciple. How are you with your discipler? Do they chase you or do you chase them? It's as simple as that. Imagine this stupid situation. Imagine you go to a gym and you want to get fit. And so you pay a trainer, okay? And you pay him $80 an hour. And you get there, he goes, all right, do this machine. And then you just avoid him for the whole hour and go and do what you want. That would be stupid, right? But that's how some of us are actually with our disciples. We don't call them. We don't ask them for advice. Actually, we're not emotionally close to them because we don't want to be told what to do, either through pride or insecurity. But do you chase? It's ridiculous. We have people that genuinely want to help us spiritually, and you run away from them. What you're really running away from is the plan of God. That's what you're running away from. Are you spiritual today? I remember this guy, I'll always remember him, Duncan Fielding. He had a real time after becoming a Christian just accepting any challenge from anyone. At the end there, he said, I've had enough. You're trying to control my life. He just fell away. We got a phone call a year later. He said, I've been dating this girl and she won't do anything I tell her to do. Can you please counsel our dating relationship? I remember he said, she won't do any. I want to marry this woman, but she won't do anything I say. I went, Duncan, where do you think she got it from? He was like, oh. And we had them out, we counseled them, and said, the problem is, you want her to obey you, but you don't want to obey anybody. See, who you are is who you make other people become. That's why leaders, if leaders don't want to be great disciples, they can't be leaders. Why? Because they're meant to teach discipleship. I thought last weekend, I had a situation where somebody phoned me up out of the blue. And they just, my number's on the internet, on the website. So people call me from all sorts of crazy things. And said, hey, I need some money because there's a domestic violence situation in Sydney. I need to give this woman $300. And I'm in Sydney and I work for this professional situation. And can you give the money? I'm like, okay, I don't know who you are. I said, I get a lot of crackpots phone me. But then I think, the Lord's testing me most probably. Am I going to be generous? Am I going to be trustworthy? Am I focused on him or am I not? I thought, okay, I'm going to really just bend my back and go out and try and help this situation. But I was in a couple of Bible studies, so I thought, who do I get to help me? They said this girl's in Paramount. I thought, so who can I phone that is really easy to work with, would change their day completely and just help me in this situation? I went, Leslie. I went, Leslie.
Come on, Les.
I said, what are you doing? He said, well, I'm a bit busy. I'm going to go on a date with Solomon. And I said, can you help me? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we worked through this whole situation, and it ended up seemingly to be a bit of a scam by the time we got there. But why didn't I think about you? But you go, well, I'm on a date. I'm not on this. I can't. No, here's my life. I went, no, I'll call Leslie. She has a disciple's heart. And we worked at it together. The next day, he said, okay, well, we thought we try to help and this. And we went. And maybe it was a test from God. But what it did reveal to me is how I feel about everybody in the church and who I really think would drop everything to go and help somebody in desperate need. Why wasn't it you? Because some of us struggle just to come out to say evangelism. Don't tell me to do that. It's my Saturday. But it is your Saturday. It's your Sunday and Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday as well. That's not the point, though, is it? It's funny, I was inviting this guy at Sydney University. Said, I'm an evangelical. And he just started hammering me for all these questions. Where's your church? What do you believe? And I thought, okay, I'll just answer you. We teach the gospel and everything like this. And at the end, I said to him, do you evangelize? He went, oh, no. Well, why not? Why not? See, religion is all about, I don't have to. Christianity is about, why don't you want to? Why don't you want to share your faith? I mean, people are lost and you're saved, right? Why don't you want to build the kingdom? What else is there to do? You know, I think about people that really do an incredible job. There are certain people that warm my heart. Leo's another one. So Leo phones me up from hospital. He's like, I've got a situation, I've got a cold and they need some money. Okay, benevolence, can I help? I said, sure, Leo, you're a good-hearted guy, everything like that, gives his passion, everything like that, although he has a very challenging life. Anyway, you then find out, I said, phone him up and say, do you need the money or what? He said, oh, no, the nurses said, I don't need to pay it now. I said, but you're in challenge, said, let's give you some benevolence. He said, no, I will not take the benevolence. I don't need it. I can figure it out. You know, some of us just wait for benevolence. Just, Joe, I demand it. And yet we have money, we have a suit, we have video games, we have all sorts of different things. Where is your heart spiritually? You know, I think sometimes, as Megan says, I appreciate it's hard to be focused on being fruitful when you have a few knockbacks. But here's the thing. When people aren't responding to the gospel when you evangelize, that's when you find out if you're spiritual. You find out who you're doing it for. You know, when you first become a Christian, you go, I just want to invite everybody. I remember young Christians go and go, everybody, now I know the truth. Everybody I speak to is going to become a Christian. They just are. And then you figure out it's not true. And then you figure out, hey, I don't feel so good about this. And then you lose heart. And you go, you know what? I don't know if I want to do it. You see, we make evangelism about being a successful Christian. You see, evangelism is about loving people. That's what it's about. What are you going to say? I'm not going to love anybody anymore? It is God's job to open up people. It is our job to love people. How can we pull our heart back from loving people? And this is how people fall away. They get discouraged in evangelism and go, I don't want to love non-Christians. Then they go, I don't want to love Christians. Then they go, I don't want to come to church. And it's a deep spiral. When we say Jesus Lord, we say, I am now going to love every human being I come into contact with. Doesn't matter how they respond. Doesn't matter how they respond. My life is now full of, I will love people. You know, are you rebellious in your heart to the call of God, which is to love people? It is a privilege to be a Christian. It is a privilege to love people. I think about children. They're challenging, but they are a privilege to have. I think people in it started. Haven't even come out yet and there are problems. Okay, believe me, the problems get bigger and bigger and bigger. But it's a privilege. It changes you. It makes you grow as an individual. You know, beautiful or rebellious? Would you say you're a beautiful Christian today or a rebellious Christian today? Point 2, amazed or cynical? Daniel chapter 8, verse 15. It says, while I, Daniel, was watching the vision and trying to understand it, and that your Bible study sometimes, like, what the heck's going on? Okay. There before me stood one who looked like a man. And I heard a man's voice from the Eliel calling, Gabriel, tell this man the meaning of the vision. As he came near the place where I was standing, I was terrified and fell prostrate. Son of man, he said to me, understand the vision concerns the time of the end. While he was speaking to me, I was in a deep sleep, with my face to the ground, and he touched me and raised me to my feet. He said, I'm going to tell you what will happen later in the time of wrath, because the visions concern the appointed time of the end. The two-horned ram that you saw represents the king of Media and Persia. End times here is not talking about end times. It's very specific here. He's talking about the Medo-Persian Empire. It says the shaggy goat is the king of Greece. He's telling you the history of the world 200 years before it happens. Okay? It says the shaggy goat is the king of Greece, and the large horn between its eyes, the first king. The four horns that replace the one that was broken off represent the four kingdoms that will emerge from his nation, but will not have the same power. In the latter part of their reign, when rebels have become completely wicked, a fierce-looking king, a master of intrigues, will arise. He will become very strong, but not by his own power. He will cause astounding devastation and will succeed in whatever he does. He will destroy those who are mighty, the holy people. He will cause deceit to prosper. He will consider himself superior. When they feel secure, he will destroy many and take the stand against the prince of princes. Yet he will be destroyed, but not by a human power. The vision of the evenings and the mornings that has been given to you is true, but seal up the vision, for it concerns the distant future. I, Daniel, was worn out. I lay exhausted for several days. Then I got up and went about the king's business. I was appalled by the vision. It was beyond understanding. So here we literally see them talking about Greece rising up and the first king. Well, who was the first great king of Greece? It was Alexander the Great. Alexander was the son of King of Philip, who was the king of Macedon, basically a barbaric nation. He was sent by his father Philip to Athens and tutored under Aristotle, possibly the great intellectual of the Greek history. So he was prepared military and intellectually. Historians discuss, he succeeded because of his great courage, he succeeded because of all these things. But here we learn he succeeded because God chose him. You must understand, success is given to those that God chooses. So you're a leader because God chooses you to be one. And if he asks you to step aside, you step aside because God chooses. You go, well, I should be the leader. Well, let me tell you, when God decides you will be, you will be. Until that time, get humble. It's that simple. All of these factors could be to be mentioned, but basically about all of his greatness, but God rose up Alexander the Great. What are we learning from this throughout the whole of Daniel? God rules the nations. COVID, God rules the nations. When the visas will come up or not, whether Jesse Brown will get into New Zealand or not, God rules the nations. Taiwan, we plant out Taiwan, God will rule the nations. God will send churches in the next 12 months where God wants to send churches. We may have our tiny little plans about where we're going to go, but they are pretty irrelevant. God will choose. There's an interesting parallel here between what God did to prepare the way for Alexander to conquer Persia and what he did to let his people know about Cyrus to conquer Babylon. In both cases, these prophecies happened 200 years beforehand. He's basically telling the Jews, look, it is me that rose up the Persian Empire, Cyrus. It's me that raises up Alexander the Great. And therefore, when you are being persecuted, I am doing it. And I am doing it because you are rebellious. It's an amazing thing about spirituality. You ever challenged anybody or been on the person you're challenging, you go, nah, bro, I'm telling you, I'm not rebellious. I'm not defensive. You go, really? That's why we have discipling. You actually need people around you to tell you who you really are. I've said many times, we only know each other, know ourselves like the back of our head. I've never seen it. I sort of know, actually got a bump in the back of my head. So I sort of know it's my head, because I keep going, there's the bump. But I've never seen it. My wife has a much clearer view of whether that bump is big or not. I think it's huge because I'm just feeling it. But, we don't know ourselves. We need other people around us to really teach us who we are. As earlier in Daniel, Nebuchadnezzar says, in Daniel 4:35, he does as he pleases with the powers of heaven and the peoples of the earth. I am really, really sorry, but you are not in control of your life. That's the thing they would do. Yes, I am. Oh, no, you're not. Oh, yes, I am. Oh, no, you're not. It's like a pantomime, you know. You're not in control of your life. I met this guy from Colombia yesterday. And, and I'm sure this is going to happen to many, many people. He said, I've been here. I got married to my sweetheart and everything like this. But we're only married in the registry office because we're stuck here. I go, that's pretty sad. All your family couldn't come get married. I said, but we talked about this conversation. But I said, nobody actually knows if the borders are ever going to open up. It could be 10 years before they open up. We could have one strain after. This could be the way of life we have. We are not in control. If it's one thing COVID should teach us, we are not in control. But consider how God describes the career of Alexander to Daniel. He said he's the prominent horn. And definitely Alexander the Great, to everybody now, is a prominent horn. He crossed the Straits of the Dardanelles, basically a narrow waterway which separates Europe from Asia, from west to east, just as Daniel said. He arrived, and I've researched this many times now. Some say 10,000 he arrived with, some said 40,000, some say 50,000. It seems like he had 10,000 elite troops, and then another sort of 30 to 40,000 troops that were sort of all sorts of different types. He arrives. The Persian army that he faced originally was somewhere between 120,000 and 250,000. But the total Persian army that he beat with this was 1 million people. Wow. Now, we're not talking, there were no, satellite bombs, there was no nuclear bombs, this was hand-to-hand combat. God goes, even though he is small, I will make him great. Just like when God chose Israel, and Israel was only 70 people. He said, I'm choosing Israel because it's the smallest nation in the world, and I will make it great. God will make you great if he wants to. Don't try and make yourself great. Try and make yourself spiritual. It says Alexander's army appeared suddenly. Well, actually, the Persians thought it was not a threat, so they didn't actually send their full army. They didn't send the 1 million troops. So to them, it must have felt like he was crossing the whole earth without touching the ground. He just went straight across their empire, exactly as Daniel in the vision saw it. The goat, Alexander, attacked the two-horned ram, the Persian Median, with his King Darius III, and it was laid across the canal, exactly as Daniel had said it. Alexander did indeed attack the ram furiously, striking the ram and shattering his two horns. I've got a map here. It shows you the extent of Alexander the Great's empire. So he arrived from Greece, say with 40 or 50,000 men, took over that whole area, right? No motorbikes, no transport, no trains, into India, all the way down to Egypt. That's unbelievable. It is unquestionably true that over a 12-year period, he wiped out their nation. But then it says, at the height of his power, this large horn was broken off. So basically what happened was Alexander married a woman, a Bactrian, a princess named Roxanne, and she gave birth to a son soon after Alexander's death. So he wasn't born while Alexander was alive. So this young boy was no obvious successor. So basically what then happened is his 4 generals, or many generals, fought it out until they were put into 4 different empires. And just as this vision said, the one will become 4. And here you can see that, but it says at the height of the power, his large horn was broken off, and in its place 4 prominent horns grew up towards the 4 winds of the heaven. So here we basically see there's a little diagram here. You have Antigonus, which was the east from Syria to India, Cassander, the west from Macedonia to Greece, Lysimachus from the north from Thrace to Asia Minor, and Ptolemy from the south, Egypt and Palestine. So exactly as Daniel said it, it is split up. You're starting to get the impression that the Bible is amazing. So when people go, the Bible's not from God. Well, where is it from then? We talk about the prophecies of Jesus. This is unbelievable. Then it says there was an attack on the beautiful land. It says, out of one of them came another horn, which started small but grew in power to the south and to the east and towards the beautiful land. So one of the successors to Alexander was Ptolemy. Ptolemy's greatest general was Seleucus. In 312, Seleucus was under orders by Ptolemy to go and attack Antigonus, seized from him the city of Jerusalem, the beautiful land, along with most of the province of Syria. And then at this time, many of the Jews were taken to Alexandria, the new capital of Ptolemy's Egypt, a detail of great importance to Jewish history later. The Seleucus was so successful that he was able to set up his own independent kingdom centered in the province of Babylon. So out of the Ptolemaic dynasty came a separate dynasty called the Seleucids. In the words of Daniel's vision, out of one of them, Ptolemy, came another horn, Seleucus, which started small. These are really important people because these are the people that really started to fulfill all the other prophecies. So, guess how it was? This horn grew. It grew out of Babylon, first to the south, retaking Syria. In addition, Seleucus and his successors grew to the east, filling up the power vacuum of the former provinces of Elam, Persia, and Media. Finally, in 198 BC, the Seleucian king Antinous took Palestine, or Jerusalem, from the Ptolemies. So in this later coming horn came to occupy the beautiful land. Daniel again recorded this some 200 to 300 years beforehand. Next, Daniel's vision turns more vivid apocalyptic language. It says, it, i.e. the Seleucid kingdom, grew up to the host of heavens and threw down some starry hosts down to the earth and trampled on them. It set itself up to be the great as the prince of hosts. It took away the daily sacrifice from him, and the place of his sanctuary was brought low. So the daily sacrifice is basically there would be a daily sacrifice in the temple. The Seleucid kingdom clearly never literally threw down the stars in the sky to the ground. This is symbolic language of the spiritual battle that is going on behind the scenes. So in Revelation 12:3, it says, then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous and red dragon with the 7 heads and 10 horns. We find that that's Rome, okay, with the 10 leaders and then the 7 heads of the hills around Rome, and the 7 crowns on the heads. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to the earth. The dragon stood in front of the woman who was about to give birth. So here again we see that same sort of thing, and reference really to a third of the angels were kicked out of heaven. So what Daniel's vision is referring to 100 years before is the reign of Antiochus, the Seleucid king who would reign from 175 to 163. Why? He is the guy that really goes and persecutes the Jews. All right. So in end, we'll do more of this in Daniel 10, 11, and 12. But basically, he then goes, okay, you're not allowed to circumcise the Jews. And as a result, there was a great revolt. Then he, basically, the abomination that causes desolation, he sacrifices a pig actually on the altar of God. And that's the next section of the big persecutions there. But do you think about this? This is unbelievable information. And we're only studying one chapter of the Bible today. Just one chapter. So what do you do with all this amazing information? Well, if you want to get all the detail, then read the commentary book I've also given to you. But Daniel was overwhelmed. Imagine God appeared to you today and gave you the history of the world for the next 300 years. Would that not overwhelm you? What do you do with it? You stick it online, they'll call you a crackpot. What do you actually do with that type of information? And then and not only that, in that information, you know that your people are going to become rebellious and there's going to be persecutions. You ever had bad news and you know you need to tell somebody about it, but you're just so overwhelmed you just sit there, turn the telly on and just numb out? He was just overwhelmed. What are you meant to do with the Bible? The truth of it is, when we study the Bible, every single one of us gets overwhelmed, don't we? When you realize either that you're lost. When I studied the Bible, I realized I was lost. Okay, that was easy. I was smoking, getting drunk. But when I saw how many other people were lost, it was hard for me to handle. And I got overwhelmed. And I actually went, right, forget this Christianity. I'm just going to go out and get drunk. I just went, I don't know what to do, but go back into my sin. And that's where people go. What we're meant to do is take it and go, I need to get up and deal with this. Now, what does the God say about your future? John 8:31, to the Jews who had believed him, Jesus said, if you hold to my teachings, you are really my disciples. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. If you do not know your Bible and obeying it, you don't know the truth about life. You think you do, you just have an opinion. The only way to know the truth about life is not only to read the Bible, but to do it. Otherwise, you're just a fan of the Bible. It's like many of us watch sport, and man, we have so many opinions about American football and my team or soccer like this, and you've never played the game. Right. Yeah. That's how many people go, I'm a Christian, you've never played the game. Come on. Like this guy evangelized, have you ever evangelized? No. How can you call yourself, he was literally holding a Bible. How can you call yourself a Christian and you don't evangelize? Well, I speak to my friends. Great, that takes a couple of minutes. Luke 13:3, I tell you no, but unless you repent, you too will all perish. We genuinely believe, don't we, there's a third option. There's repent, and there's perish, and there's a place for me. We do. The Catholics created purgatory, where the emphasis, you go to purgatory, which doesn't really exist, and then somebody else has to do good works and pray for you to move you. Right? That doesn't exist. But no, there's heaven and hell. There's repent or perish. I don't like that. Nobody does. Nobody does. Whoop-de-doo, I'm on the way to hell. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, even makes it, I'm on the highway to hell. You're an idiot. That's what you are. Okay. Ecclesiastes 2:26. To the person who pleases him, God gives wisdom, knowledge, and happiness. But to the sinner or government, he gives a task gathering and storing up wealth to hand it over to the Christians who please him. That's what my Bible says. How many of us have got by from government handouts over the last 2 years? American stimulation. Again, hey, that's the sinners collecting the money and just giving it over to us. Thank you, God. I don't need to worry about money. No, I don't. I need to worry about my relationship with God. Come on. Think about examples of how much God has given you on such a great future. It's awesome. Pete came on a mission team with us 7 years ago. Little did we know when we were hacking around the center of LA and trying to get a visitor off the streets there and some crazy things happened there, did we even imagine this? He'd be sitting here holding his baby, his second child. I remember when people went, I don't want kids. You remember that, Pauline? All right, kids, no. Do you remember that? We were like, Pete, what? Now he's like, hey, it's my little boy, leave me alone. What we think we want and what we get, God gives us what we need and what we actually really desire. I think about, it's going to be great for the Men's Day next week. I was talking to the guys that are speaking. So Len's speaking from a worldly point of view. He was a professional soccer player, runs his own business. Okay, so the world wants to know how to be successful. But they think that in terms of money. Money doesn't make you successful. It makes you selfish. Okay, because if you don't have it, then you destroy relationships to get it. And when you do get it, you destroy relationships to keep it. That's that's what happens. But I think about, Lennox, and we're going to be talking about just, why we're Christians, why we don't chase the dreams. I think about that moment. And again, as a leader, I remember those moments where I thought, I don't know if you're going to come through this. I remember Lennox going, Joe, I got an offer, dream job, playing for this team in Dubai. Wow. They're going to give me all the money I want, it's Dubai. This could be my greatest soccer opportunity. I know there's no church there, but Joe, you've got to understand the offer. I go, I do. You don't. But Joe, this is what I've been waiting for all my life. I was like, no, it's not. It's what Satan wants to give you. I remember those moments. And then Len goes, and I'm praying like, God, please make Len make the right decision. Please. And then he went, no, okay, I'm not going to go. A couple of later, his sister Leslie hands her cards in, becomes a Christian. I remember the tears. I remember Kira going, my best friend's become a Christian, besides Len, obviously. And it's like, that was worth any goal that he could ever score. Any publicity that he could ever score. That's what life is about. I think so many of us, remember the start of the Chinese ministry. I remember the first Chinese we started studying the Bible with. I'm like, I don't get you. They go, I know, and I definitely don't get you. And I remember that just going, I don't know anything about China. I mean, at least, I know Chinese takeaway. I mean, that's about the extent of my whole China hot pot. I didn't know, what is it, you sit on it? Well, I mean, what do you do with a hot pot? I mean, I remember studying them and going, and then I remember Chinese New Year came around, and it was massive, and there was the parade, and my dad took me to say, I was like, I've really got to get my head around these people. I thought, yeah, maybe we'll have one or two Chinese in the church. That'd be a nice thing, sitting down the front. Amen. It'd be like this. Then they kept coming in, one, another. And then, Themas came in, and then Chi came in, and the other's like, oh my goodness me. And then you see it. And then you see Crouching Tiger too. Like, we're not allowed to show you pictures because of the persecution and stuff. But there's a picture I've got of the latest baptism, and them all standing there, and then just, it's crazy. And you're like, wow. Wow, what a privilege. What a privilege to turn that world, that country, upside down from the ground up. To learn how God has been working in that country. In the 6th century with the Nestorian priest over there, it is my genuine belief that the kingdom of God was basically, it wasn't in Europe at all. By that time, the Catholics had destroyed it. It was actually in China. So if you wanted to be a Christian in the kingdom of God in the 6th century, it is my true belief that you had to be living in China. Chinese go, no. What I evangelize, go, I met this guy from Xi'an. He goes, oh, that's, where the hub of Christianity in China was. He went, no, it's not. I showed him the Nestorian stele. He's like, whoa. And I said, your government have stolen the Christian dream from you. He's like, I'm ticked off now. But to see what God has done. God rules the nations. Have you become cynical or are you amazed? One of the things about the more evangelism you do is you can become more cynical rather than more amazed. Because you get more rejection. And it's something I had to deal with the mission team. You go, because what we want to do, I've got half an hour, I want to invite 3 people and actually they'll all come. And actually, Paul's come and helped me build Sydney Uni. We went out on Thursday and fair enough, I had about an hour and I met 3 people and they all wanted to come. He's like, I see how easy it is? But it's not always that way. But it can be hard. But you have to really pursue. You've got to use every different avenue. When you talk to people, you've also got to have decent conversations with them. So I met one guy in Sydney, his name's Jack, and he said, no, my parents are scientists. I said, that's good. But his view was like, no, they're scientists I don't want to talk to. I said, my speciality is proving Christianity from science. He went, really? Got this big conversation about it. He goes, wow, I've never seen it like that. So, well, let's get a coffee and hang out. But even I think you have to work through things and do it in a bit of fun. So I like Risk and Hobbyrama, okay? Now that. So after evangelism yesterday, I went up to the hobby shop at the top of QVB. And, I'm looking for a new game. I try and look for a new game every week. And this guy just comes up and goes, hey, how can I help? So we start talking. His name's Stephen. So if you go on Hobbyrama at Stephen, look for him. He is the games master for his church. All right? I kid you not. He said, I figured out, Exploding Kittens. He goes, I know how to make it, you can play with 26 people. I'm like, have you heard of Risk? Risk? What do you mean have I heard of Risk? So I then, I talked about it. He said, basically, he knows every game in the shop. He said, I'm a Christian, da, da, da. I said, you go to church, and I do all the electronics at the church stuff, so I can't say, but would you come to a Thursday night Risk night? He said, oh, yes. Now I started talking about it. So again, evangelism can be fun. It can be all sorts of different things. And then sometimes you've really got to work hard. So I met one guy, again, he goes to his church, but he works at a cafe in that sort of bookshop on the first row in the city with all the, sort of Chinese books and everything like that. And so he works there. So that's where I'll go and have coffee, and I'll just keep going back and building a relationship with him. Even I know Megan met somebody from the ICOC who had fallen away on campus. So Ian talked to her. She talked to Ian in New Zealand. They spoke to me, and then I made them friends on Facebook, made friends with her mother, went back and forth with her mother, worked through that, and then we're going to go and get dinner with her. So again, you can evangelize through clever methods, through Facebook, on the street, but there is never a reason to be cynical. There are 8 billion people in the world. Are you telling me that one hasn't prayed last night, God, send somebody to me? Out of 8 billion? We just have to find them. Daniel, a man of warning. What is he warning against? Well, God gives him this vision and go, you know what? Don't get rebellious. Don't get rebellious. He said, when you get rebellious, bad things happen. It may be difficult to obey the Bible, but there is no other option. There is no other option. It may be difficult to resist sin, but there is no other option. Yes, your friends may put pressure on you. All of those things. But it's never, ever worth it. Rebellion never helps anyone. People want to change the world. They want a rebellion. Every rebellion that has ever happened has killed more people than the governing body beforehand, even though they were wicked. The French Revolution just killed millions of more people. The government beforehand, or the king beforehand, wasn't great, but he wasn't that bad. Rebellion never gives any reward. And then, are you amazed or cynical? How's your Bible study? I love studying Daniel. I'm blown away. I think I've studied this before, but you read the Bible and go, did I really know this? Yeah. And these aren't the big prophecies. Chapter 10 and 11 is mind-blowing. It goes king by king by king by king. What are you meant to take away from this? Tomorrow morning, get up and read your Bible. If you're struggling with being inspired, study heaven, because that's where you're going. If you're struggling to be faithful, study heaven. Don't study hell. You know you don't want to go there. That's it. Yeah. Study heaven. Okay, you can study hell if you want. You'll be pretty depressed. But okay. Study heaven. That's where you need to go. You know, take the warning. Be a beautiful Christian and live an amazing life. Amen.
To hear more from Dr. Joe Willis, check out his 2 books on Amazon, The Art of Spiritual Warfare, Practicals for Becoming a Prayer Warrior, and Money is the Answer for Everything. Click the links in the description below. Also, for more life-changing lessons, subscribe to his YouTube channel, Dr. Joe Willis.